Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to everybody that's here and to anybody who's watching remotely. We are so glad to have everybody here. I'm hoping that maybe by next week it will actually feel like fall instead of August. This has been a bit much. I'm Reverend Dr. Claudia Hall. My pronouns are she or they, and I am delighted to serve here as the minister of this community. I'm so happy to see everybody here today, and I hope that everybody will take time, both in our greeting moment and also in coffee hour, to just reach out and say hi to somebody and offer a welcome to somebody you don't know as well. We welcome everyone this morning to this home of comfort, spirit, justice, and hope, for we are Unitarian Universalists. An important ritual in our Unitarian Universalist faith is the lighting of our chalice. We have a lot of different interpretations of our chalice, and one of the things that we really do want to express is the fact that this represents the love we have for each other and for our children. I invite Ramona to come forward this morning, and if you're watching elsewhere and want to light our chalice or candle now, go ahead and do so. And everybody else, would you join with us as we say our unison words projected on the screen? We light this chalice today as a symbol of love, at the center of all we do and feel and do. We light this chalice in hope for our future of our species, that we may learn to live in harmony with each other and ourselves, creating beloved community. Will you join me as you're able in a spirit of prayer and meditation? Spirit of beloved community, as we gather with these people who constitute our spiritual home, we ask that each of us be granted the self-awareness to know the things that are holding us back, that we be open to the ways we need to change and grow, and that we be assured always of the love and respect of those who gather here as we build our community together, one right relationship at a time. Amen, and blessed be. I invite you to take a moment now and give everybody a big hello next to you, and then here in a minute we will sing number 67 in our great hymnal. It is a tradition here at our Metro East Unitarian Universalist congregation to put each service within the larger values that we as Unitarians hold dear. This week, we're lifting up values of interdependence, especially the emphasis on how we will create and nurture sustainable relationships of care and respect, mutuality, and justice. Generosity, which most of us tend to think of as being giving money to the church, but it's actually about covenanting to freely and compassionately share our faith, our presence, and our resources. It's actually three pieces that all work together. Our generosity connects us to one another in those relationships of interdependence and mutuality. And third, equity, because we covenant to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities. These all come directly from the new Article 2 statement, and it is rooted in and centered on the ideal of covenantal relationship, where the emotions and values of the parties are important along with the actions. Covenant is not just a list of rules to follow. It is a way of viewing the world in which the maintenance of the relationships between, the admission of and maintenance of our interdependence is crucial for success. This week and next, we are looking at our own right relationships covenant and how it can be a powerful tool for our own growth as individuals and as a congregation. As we do this growth, this inner work that we're talking about, one of the things that has held us together for so many years is being able to come together no matter what is going on in our life. If life is great, we come together and we celebrate. If life is difficult, we come together and hold one another up. As part of our weekly worship service, we take time to express our joys, concerns, and sorrows. This is what it means to come home. Now, many of us who are Unitarian Universalists have not grown up with a home that was truly home. We don't necessarily have a place that we can call our own. For many of us, especially if we grew up in the queer community or in a fundamentalist religious community, we may have had to create home wherever we went, to create family from those around us. In this place and in this time, we invite each and every one of you to look around at the family of this church. We're not perfect. We make mistakes. We do things and we step on each other's toes and we shelve things in the wrong basket and we leave the toilet seat up and all the other things that families do that drive each other crazy. But truly, at the end of the day, what matters most is that this is home and this is a family who loves you and cares. Today, if you would like to recognize a joy, a sorrow, or a milestone, you're invited to come forward and place a stone or several in the water bowl to represent those things you carry with you. As you come forward, if you have any issues with mobility or any challenges, or you're just not able to come forward today, just raise your hand and someone else will help you bear that burden and will bring your stones forward for you. I invite us all to come forward in a spirit of prayer and meditation, carrying the things that are in our hearts. So as I prepared these sermons for this week and next, I know that one of the things that's most important when we come to difficult things. So let me take a step back. For those of you who don't know, if you're newer to our congregation or if you've been away, we're coming up on something really important in the life of this congregation, which is a vote about whether or not we're going to buy land, if so, which property we're going to buy from the ones we've been able to find in our budget, and where we're going to move. Because the Masonic Brothers, who have been phenomenal to us, we love them to death, and they are amazing gentlemen. However, they need their building back. And in case you haven't noticed, we're a little tight on seating, which is a great problem to have, but it is time for us to take the next step in our move. And I know that with any change and any big decision, scary stuff happens, right? And all those things that are going on in your life bubble all up. And one of the things that is really important in right relationships is to be able to set boundaries. This is something that those of us who were raised and socialized in female bodies are often never allowed to have. We're taught from an early age, that we have to accept what other people do to us, be it to our physical body or our spiritual body or our emotional self. And it's not just, women, men have it too. I see one of the things that we talk about a lot with our kids, right, is that they always have the right to say no. Because here we want them to have those boundaries. We want them to know it's okay to say, I want to light the chalice or I don't want to light the chalice. I want to do this or I don't want to do this. And to be honored in that. Well, one of the things that is important for our kids and for ourselves, but also one of the things that's hard to learn, especially if we weren't socialized into it growing up, is how to set boundaries. So today, our video for our kids is going to be, and for us, is one called The Not So Friendly Friend, How to Set Boundaries.
Hey there! Are you ready for today's story? Let's go! My bedtime stories.
Read with me as we make the world more magical, one story at a time. The Not So Friendly Friend: How to Set Boundaries for Healthy Friendships by Christina Furnival, illustrated by Katie Dwyer. There was once a girl who was new at her school. To make some good friends, she used the golden rule. She treated her classmates how she liked to be treated. She was helpful and loving, and her hugs were the sweetest. It was easy to like her. She was lovely and kind, a good problem solver who had a bright mind. She shared and took turns, was as fair as they come. She used words, not her body, to solve any problem. But try as she might, not everyone liked her. There was one other kid who found reason to fight her. At first, she tried harder to be this kid's friend. But this kid was not nice and teased her to no end. Unkind words and rude actions would make her heart frown. When they played together, she was left feeling down. She realized this friend was no friend at all, 'cause someone who loves you won't make you feel small. Staying true to herself and her beautiful heart, she created some boundaries, the right place to start. If this kid was nice, she'd play and have fun. But if they were not, then she'd say, "All done! If you want to be kind, I'd be glad if you'd play. But if you don't treat me right, you can go on your way. I'll play with true friends who make me feel good and treat me with love, just as a friend should. When you're ready to change and be nice again, you're welcome to join and play with us then. The lesson she learned she still uses today. She won't put up with bullies. It's never okay. She stands up for herself and how she wants to be treated, and does so respectfully. She doesn't get heated. And if she needs help or doesn't know what to say, she asks a trusted adult to show her the way. With boundaries in place, healthy friendships can grow. You'll have fun and feel safe with your heart all aglow.
All right.
Thank you
Sing our
so much
kids
for
out
staying.
to RE. All right, our next hymn is in the gray hymnal or on the wall. It's number 131, Love Will Guide Us. Well, good morning again, everybody. So again, as I said, today is the first of a two-part series on our Right Relationships Covenant, which we're going to actually be talking about for a bunch of different reasons. One is that we actually really haven't had a chance to dive into it since the move, and we have a lot of new faces. So a lot of you really may not even know this exists, much less that it is a guide for our behavior. And second, as I said, because we're about to go into some conversations that may bring up a few emotions here and there around the edges. And I want everybody to know that we do have a way we have agreed to talk, to live, and even to fight with each other. whenever I do marriage counseling and people come in, they're like, oh, I'm so excited, we're getting married. And one of the first questions I always ask is, so how do you fight? And the ones that scare me the most are the ones who go, oh, we never fight. And I'm basically looking at them, and in the back of my head, I'm thinking to myself, you've got no chance. Because the truth of the matter is, if you live with another human being long enough, they're going to do something. Because someone else living in your house eventually becomes the most aggravating human being that has ever existed on this earth. Maybe I'm the only person? Okay, that's what I thought. So, you gotta know how to fight fair if you're going to make your relationships work. And that is just as true in a marriage as it is in a church. So one of the things that I really want us to know is what boundaries we have set and the rules of the playing field here. And also, it's really important to know that we're discussing this ongoing as a community. Now, for those of you who were here before the vote to move, we talked about this a lot, and we voted on this covenant as a congregation. This was the guidelines we were going to use, but we also said that we're going to keep updating it as time goes on. So this is one of those things that we're going to keep looking at and keep moving forward with. The UUA has put out new guidelines that actually suggest that all of us enter into covenants with one another as communities of faith, because we need to have these intentionally spelled out boundaries. We need to let people know, because people who come to UU churches, generally speaking, do not come in the best frame of mind. Most people who walk in the door of a UU church have been hurt. They've been hurt somewhere by someone. And if it's not that they were hurt by a church, it's that they were hurt by their family, or they were hurt just by the world at large. Because they dared to question, they dared to think against the narrative, they dared to explore who they were as people. And so for us, it's really important to know where the edges are between questioning and rudeness. Where is this edge that we have? And like the book says, it's a lot easier to find those edges when you're 5. But when you're 50, those edges still exist. And so to really look at this and to work with this as a community of faith. So first and foremost, what is the Right Relationships Covenant? Well, I've got copies here, so anybody who wants one after service, come and see me. The only reason I didn't hand it out now is because I wanted folks to listen to me instead of reading their homework. I knew you would. It's true. I know, y'all. But it's a document, and basically what it is, it just lays out what we're going to do. And, our church is almost 200 years old. That is really old. So I was looking the other day, and I was cleaning some stuff at the house, and I happened to look on the Heinz vinegar bottle. And it's like, since 1869. And I was like, our church had already been around for 30 years. That is a wild thought to have, isn't it? Some of the oldest businesses in this country, and we've been around longer than that. So we think about this, that we might have just a little bit of ingrained habits and tradition after 200 years. And so having been in almost the exact same location for that whole 185, I'm not good at math, years, it was not an easy decision. And folks had some emotional attachments. Now, I would love to stand here as the minister and say that everybody set their own stuff aside and we all had a wonderfully enlightened conversation. We know that's not what happened. There was a lot of stuff that went on. Some of it was downright abusive. And one of the things that I know is that sometimes that still bubbles around the edges of the church community. I'm really lucky because today I get to preach to the choir. You guys aren't the ones that I'm going to have to dance around what you did. I can just be honest with y'all. This is really good. But the truth is that those folks who were hurt and chose to hold their hurt, that's not good for them. It's bad for us. Like physically, it leads to ulcers and high blood pressure and migraines and all kinds of stuff. Emotionally, it leads to struggles with relationship. It's just not good. Focusing on bitterness and spite does really ugly things to the human body. So one of the reasons that this covenant is so important is to say anytime we allow hateful behavior. Now again, I'm not talking about the people, and I want to make this distinction really clear, okay? As universalists, We believe that people are inherently good. This is important because far too often we like to act as though the person is the problem, not the behavior. Okay? People are not the problem. The behaviors they have been taught are. My son has a book. It's the Pout Pout Fish and the Bully Bully Shark. He loves Pout Pout Fish books, guys. So one of the things that this line is just so good, and I love it so much, is the Pout Pout Fish confronts the Bully Bully Shark, and he says, a bully is not what you are, but it is what you have done. And so I want us to hold that as I talk about this, that I am talking about the behavior, not the person. You know, like the video said, anytime you want to play nice, we want you to come back and play with us. We're not turning anyone away and saying, you know, you as an individual are no longer welcome. All we're saying is these behaviors cannot be in this community because they're harmful. They're hurting people. So, the actual covenant is pretty simple. First, we're covenanting with ourselves. We're covenanting that when we feel really strongly on an issue, when something makes you mad, when something like super overwhelms you, when you just want to pick up the phone and make a really angry phone call, when you want to yell at somebody, when you are sitting there in front of your email and you're just pounding on the keys, this covenant asks you to step back and realize that every one of those emotions should be a light bulb that something deeper in your world is going on. Because the truth of the matter is, it doesn't matter what building we're in. It doesn't matter what lot we buy. It doesn't matter what building we build. We're still a community of faith. We're still the same people. We proved that because when we left Alton and came here, we still have people. We're still in existence. We're still doing things. But those emotions that clog us up come from all kinds of places, right? They come from not having a place to call home, and so you're desperate to have one, and so you cling on to a building instead of a community. They come from, I don't know, something somebody said to you one time, and it really drug you down. You know, our traumas and our problems come from all over, and a lot of times they're buried, and you have no idea. I think about the poor people around the world who live near minefields, and how years later, right? Japan, did any of you guys see the article about there was an airstrip? They were driving along this little airstrip and it blew up. It blew up because there was a bomb from World War II that exploded almost 100 years ago. And all of a sudden, for whatever reason, it worked. I mean, hundreds and thousands of planes had gone over this runway every day. But all of a sudden, just the right vibrations at the right time, at the right place, and kaboom. Well, folks, we're the same way. Something that may have been hidden so far down we haven't even thought of it or couldn't even think of it if we tried. All of a sudden, the right set of vibrations and time and whatever, and kaboom. So all we're asking, we're not saying don't get mad, because we don't really have that much control over our involuntary emotions. What we are saying is, when you feel like that in this space, take a breath and think about why. Take a breath and say, okay, something else going on deeper inside me. And I'm going to say this, I'm sure, a lot. I've been saying it a lot, and I'm going to keep saying it a lot. The problem is not, never has been, and never will be, you versus the board. The board is the congregation. The congregation is the board. The board are not like outside people that we just randomly pick up on the street and drag in and put in charge of the church, right? They are members of this congregation that step forward and say, I will take on the duty of making sure that the bills are paid and that the lights stay on and that we have a place to go and things to do and all, the website's fixed and all this stuff. The problem is us versus our situation. And honestly, we have a really good problem to have. I don't know too many ministers that they're outgrowing their space, right? There's not too many churches that are doing so well that we have to constantly be upgrading. This is a great problem to have, but it is a problem. Now, in the past, we have had people who flat out have said, that Robin or Alex have had some kind of like conspiracy going on. Y'all, we're Unitarian Universalists. We don't do conspiracy theories. The truth of the matter is, and maybe y'all don't know this, so I'm just going to lay it out here. Did you know that any member of the church is welcome to come to any board meeting you want? You are more than welcome to log on to Zoom and, spend 2 hours of your life on a Wednesday night with the rest of us if you want. We don't hide anything. Our minutes, which our wonderful secretary Jennifer types up in incredible detail, they're available for you to read at any time. Nothing is hidden here because we're all one community of faith. The thing is that this kind of us versus them thinking is what the world constantly does. My gosh, all you have to do is look at anything right now, politically speaking, to know it's all us versus them, us versus them, us versus them. We are standing at a different place. We are holding ourselves to a different standard, and we are saying, we're not going to do that. It's going to be us versus the problem, whether the problem is homelessness in our community, whether the problem is dealing with, political ills, whether the problem is finding a space big enough for us. We're going to do it together instead of blaming one another. So again, the first step is just personal awareness. It's just knowing when my emotions are churning that there's something else behind it. The second thing is not just to know it, but to do something about it. I once worked with someone, Unitarian Universalist, not in this congregation, so that we're all clear, who came to me and they were very upset because I had used a scripture verse, a Bible scripture, in a sermon. And basically what they told me is that they had been hurt by scripture and therefore never wanted to hear it in a UU church. And I can empathize because scripture's been used to hurt me a lot. And so I asked the person when that hurt happened, just so I could kind of get a feel for whatever. And they said it was when they were 16. This person was in their late 60s. So the trauma is still real, and I'm not denying the trauma in any way. But I'm also looking at 50 years that you've had to work on that trauma, that for whatever reason you haven't been able to. So as a covenant group here at this church, what we're saying is when I notice that I've got some big trauma in my life, I'm going to promise myself to break those cycles, and I'm going to go get some help. Whether it's giving me a call and I can offer you some resources, some books, some ways of looking at stuff, I'm going to go see a professional. Therapy's great. I go to the doctor for my regular body checkup, and I go to the therapist for my brain checkup. That's what you do. And it really is important. It's important for us to model the behavior that we want for our kids, right? We want to be mentally healthy so that the next generation sees that's important. We covenant with each other to do our work. And so again, we've all lived through it. We've all had some kind of trauma. We've all got some kind of baggage. And I'm not saying that you have to be perfect, because that is just not going to happen. That's an unrealistic expectation, right? What I am saying is when you realize it, we're here to help you find the way to process it, to deal with it, to move forward. And realistically, we're covenanting all of that with ourselves because you owe it to yourself. You're good, wonderful, incredible people, and you deserve to be happy. You deserve to have a life that is full of good things, not held back by past traumas that are dragging you down. More than anything, the fact that we teach that people are good. Other churches teach that human beings are essentially depraved. That's a literal word that Calvinist churches use. Total depravity of the human species. We teach the opposite. So, if you're totally depraved, then, you deserve the guilt and the shame and the pain and the blame. But if you're good, you don't. So our theology that teaches you are essentially good says, then if you're not acting like that, let's get you some help. Let's help you achieve what you can, what you want, what's good for you, what's good for all of us. So there's the first one. Second part of our covenant is, I've lost my train of thought completely. I love it when I do that. Yeah, it's just being one of those days. It's okay. So basically what happens is as we're looking at this, that's the first part is to take care of myself and my emotions. The second part is that I'm going to covenant with the other people in this building that I'm going to ask for what I need. One of the things that helps so much from your minister is when I know that you're going in for surgery, or that you've been in the hospital, or that you have some difficult thing coming up. Because I frequently, and it's not here, this has been in every church I've ever served, I will get a message from someone saying, yeah, well, did you know so-and-so's been home from the hospital for a week and you haven't called them? And I'm like, they were in the hospital? You have to ask for what you need. If what you need is somebody to go to the hospital, you got to contact somebody. Working with Brian, he's going to be helping us with a care committee, and we've got 2 or 3 people that are going to be putting that together, so you'll be getting more outreach, and we'll be doing more pastoral care stuff. But you have to ask. You have to be willing to risk a little vulnerability, and that is hard. It is so hard in this world because this world says you stick out your hand and it's going to get slapped. And the truth is, it very well might. Because somebody else may be having a trauma moment, and they may not be in a place where they can take your hand, right? So what we have to do is we have to ask for what we need, we have to extend our hand, and we have to start from a position that says the other person is doing their best. Now, their best might sometimes not be real great, but we're going to assume that they're doing their best and they're not out to get me. And that is, again, a very hard assumption in the world we live in, because the world we live in right now, especially in this political season, especially in this current climate, is all about who's stabbing who in the back. But we, in this place, want to say to each other, I'm going to trust you enough that I'm believing you are not trying to hurt me. Now, if you say something or do something that hurts me, I'm going to tell you, hey, I found that hurtful, but I'm not going to assume, oh my God, why did you do that, you hurtful so-and-so? Why would you treat me like this? How dare you be so awful all the time? I'm just going to say, hey, that came across as like, this kind of hurt. What's going on? It's a difference in how we approach it, and it's hard. It's really hard, especially when you're hurting, to take that tack. And I myself, in this very congregation, have had to go back and apologize once or twice when I took something the wrong way. So I am not preaching like, do as I say, not as I do, right? Like, I've messed up myself. And the reason that this is so hard is because our brains are these wonderful, amazing creations of evolution, right? So little monkeys in the trees, reaching for fruit. Instead of reaching for fruit, little monkey grabs a wasp nest. What happens to little monkey? Little monkey's hand gets stung, right? Well, from then on, whenever the monkey sees something that looks like a wasp nest, this flood of chemicals hits its brain. I mean, it is almost instantaneous. It's like a millionth of a second how fast your brain sees something it perceives as a threat and reacts with a flood of chemicals, cortisol, adrenaline, all this kind of stuff. And what it does is it literally shuts off everything except the instinct that will let you freeze or run. That's it, your fight or flight. And it does that precisely because our brains eat up most of the energy in our system, right? So if we're thinking about the wasp and what kind of wasp is that? Is that really the wasp nest? And are these really a lot of wasps coming out to sting me? We'll be stung before we do anything. So our brains, being smarter than the rest of us a lot of times, shuts all that stuff off and says, get the heck out of there, little monkey. Those wasps are going to sting you. And we take off. Now, evolutionarily speaking, this was a good thing because it kept us from getting eaten by snakes and wasps and all these other things that are out to eat little monkeys, right? But nowadays, we have a problem. Because nowadays, we live in a world that isn't just about this limbic system, this fight or flight stuff. We live in a world that needs us to be up here in our prefrontal cortex, right? We need to be making rational decisions. We need to be thinking through political positions. We need to be evaluating criteria for lots, and is this one better than that one, and how's the financial looking, and all that sort of stuff. We can't do that when our brain is literally turning those pieces off. And it's not our fault that we get triggered. It's not our fault that our brains do this limbic dance. But it is our fault if we know that's what's happening and we never do anything to fix it, right? So when you catch yourself in that dance, and sometimes, almost always, you can't catch yourself in the moment, because in the moment, that piece of your brain's been shut off. So what you have to do is later, you have to come back and eat the crow and go, so I kind of did the thing, and I'm really sorry. Because I was under stress, and when I'm under stress, my body shuts down everything except what it needs to run away from the threat. So, this is why, for any of you who are in recovery or know someone who's in recovery, this is why when people are in recovery, when they're under high stress situations, it's when they often relapse. Because their brain is looking for familiar patterns, and it has shut down their higher reasoning. People know that drugs are bad for them. It's not like news to people, right? But when your brain has shut that part of your brain off and you literally can't make higher decisions, you're craving what's comfortable, you want to go back into your den, it's an evolutionary thing. So we go to what's familiar. And what's familiar might be drugs or alcohol. What's familiar might be an ex that's really somebody who's not good for us, right? It might be a family member who keeps treating us really badly, but we keep winding up in these situations. Why do we keep winding up in these situations? Because it's what we knew. And so as soon as our higher brain gets shut off, that's the den we run to. This is an evolutionary thing. And so what we do in this right relationships covenant is we say, okay, evolution wired us this way, but we have an opportunity as a community to overcome that. Now, wait a minute. You're like, 10 million years of evolution on us monkeys, or however long it's been, versus, a few weeks and a couple of pages of text. Well, practice. Practice, practice. We practice right now when we're not in the middle of a vote, when we're not in the middle of a discussion. We practice on the little things. When I was in seminary, I had to do an immersion. Everybody did in my seminary. We all had to go live in a different culture for a while. And I wound up living at a Benedictine monastery, which was a fantastic experience. The sisters were lovely, and I really enjoyed my time there. But one of the things that they really taught me is no matter how long you live in community, you still need more time to learn how to live in community. And one of the sisters who had been an anchorite, which is what they call someone who lives away in the little hermitage all by themselves, she told me that it was so much easier to be a hermit than to be a sister in the halls. And the reason is because when you get back to the halls, all those little things that the sisters do that drive you up a wall come right back. So, some of our wonderful Unitarian forebears that wrote these lovely books, like Emerson and some of these other folks, yeah, it's easy to do that when you're living on your own and your sister's doing your laundry, right? But when you're in community is when you actually get to practice. That's why the monastic disciplines live in community, in a sangha or in a monastery, because you need to sharpen yourself on other people. You need to wear down those things that hold you back. You need to unprogram and reprogram those evolutionary reactions. So we can't undo evolution in the sense that I can't one day just turn it off and I'll never go into my limbic system again. But what I can do is recognize the things that trigger me and get the help so that I'm not constantly thinking that everything this big is a wasp's nest, right? That's what I mean when I say practice. We can look at it so that I don't see an orange and panic thinking it's a wasp's nest. I can practice. So if my trauma is that people have been mean to me with raised voices, I can practice through therapy, through small group interactions, through being here. I can practice so that I know that every time a person raises their voice, they're not yelling, right? And I don't know each and every one of your traumas, but you do. And maybe you don't know all of them, but when they come up, you can say, aha, here's a thing. And I can practice it in this community, in this right relationship way, where I can say, okay, this is a thing that's really hard for me, and I'm gonna work on it. So what exactly are the promises that we're making? You know, today there's 7 full promises, and I'm going to go with 3 today and 4 next week. Again, the first thing that we ask for is what I need, and assume that they'll tell you what they need. The second is to start from a position of assuming the other has good intentions. No one here is out to get you. Nobody. Nobody here is out to hurt each other. Nobody here is out to, out someone. No one here is out to get somebody fired. Nobody here has a secret agenda. Those are things outside the walls. In here, we're actually all trying really hard to do good things and to be good to each other, to ourselves and to each other. And the third thing is that I'll respect my boundaries and the boundaries of others. This is something that, again, it can be really, really hard. And when we realize that our boundaries have been pushed, to come back in community and to say, you know what, I need some space, whatever that space looks like for you. And again, all of these things are just time. It takes a lifetime, or depending on your theology, maybe many lifetimes, right? To polish all of these edges, to undo all of these traumas that we're tied up in, and to get down to where the real stuff is. I expect the far right to be willing to live in fear. And the reason is because when people are afraid, they're not thinking. Well, the far right, and I don't care if it's Iran or Israel or America, the far right cannot survive when people are thinking. Because anybody using half of a prefrontal cortex brain cell will look at that and go, this makes no sense. These people can't complete a sentence. These people are hateful. I don't want my kids growing up like that. Why would somebody eat a cat when there's a grocery store right there? These are the kinds of questions that you ask when you're in your prefrontal cortex. But when you've been made afraid, right? And when you're being pointed at that other as being a wasp nest that's going to sting you and hurt you and kill you, that's what the far right does. We're trying to do the exact opposite. We're trying to say, let's do everything in our power to live up here in the prefrontal cortex. Let's lift ourselves up so that we can be more aware. You guys are awesome. The folks who weren't able to make that translation have found other places. And again, it's not that they're not welcome here. They're welcome to come back. What they're not welcome to do is to verbally abuse board members. What they're not welcome to do is to slam doors. They're not welcome to call people terrible names that I won't repeat in the pulpit. They're not welcome to send emails. They're not welcome to call the UUA before they've even emailed me. These are issues. These are broken boundaries. And again, I'm not saying these are not bad people, right? And this is where it's so hard to make this distinction, because the person may have done something that isn't good, but the person themselves still is. Your trauma does not make you bad. And that's something I hear so often in people, especially with the kinds of abuses that many people have suffered. They feel like they are bad. No, you are good. You have just learned some bad behavior. And you can unlearn it. That's the beauty of it, especially in the spiritual community. You can unlearn the bad. You can learn better. You can learn that you deserve better. And that is something that a lot of folks never have learned in their life, that they deserve better. They deserve honest conversations. They deserve loving embrace of a community that says, you're hurting and we see that. How can we work together to overcome this hurdle? You deserve a good community. So the Right Relationships Covenant says that we're going to trust each other now when there's nothing huge at stake, so that when we get to that meeting and we're all freaking out, we can take a collective pause and try to get away from the limbic system, right? Try to get back up into our prefrontal cortex and make the right decision for us. Buddhism teaches us that all our suffering comes from our thoughts, right? I would go so far as to say that what it comes from is our thoughts not being disciplined enough. Because when we let it go down into that deep limbic system, when we're just stuck in that fight or flight mentality, we're not coming up. We're not coming up. We're not thinking it through. But again, the only way to get any kind of discipline is through practice. And the only way to have practice is to keep trying. So again, when we've hit snags, when we've hit problems, we keep coming together. We apologize. We eat the crow. We do what we have to do. And we know that the other person is going to do the same for us. That is what makes the difference between our church and the others out there. That is the difference between people who claim faith and community and the people who actually practice it. The building blocks of human community, of beloved community, are all here, inviting us into a way it can be. My hope for each and every one of us is that we will keep practicing, not just because the community needs it, but because you deserve it. Each and every one of us deserves beloved community. Amen, and blessed be. Our final hymn this morning is number 414, as we leave this friendly place. Amen. All right. Who wants to pass around our offering basket? It's okay. It's all right. As Robin passes around our offering basket this morning, I offer the opportunity to give and indulge in generosity, not only of offering plate, but also Peg is in need of more dancers. So feel free to talk to Peg. She'll put you to work. Will you join with me in our offering prayer? May this offering equip us to inspire love and seek justice. All right, so I have an announcement, and it comes complete with sound effects. Okay, so people have been asking about t-shirts. You want to hold that one up?
I can do that.
So we have two different options, and they come in any color of the rainbow you want. One is just our Metro logo, and the other one is the Your Weird is Welcome Here. So if you would like either of these, I have a sign-up sheet. So find me outside there, and we will get you signed up. And you can just put your money in the plate, and I will make you a shirt for when I am here next week. Yes? Yes, I can do any size I can find at the store. So, and that is, the other thing is don't forget my class on the Bible for liberal religious people is on Tuesday, and I hope to see everybody there. If you can't make it, I'm going to do my best to remember to record it, so if you're coming, remind me. And hopefully, because it's more of a lecture style, just because there's a lot of info to convey, so if anybody wants that but can't make it on Tuesdays, let me know, and I will forward it on to you.
Cool. Alex, do you have anything? Okay, cool. I don't have anything to add to this lovely list of things other than to say on November 2nd, a bunch of us are going to the trivia night for the overnight warming locations, the OWL location. So right now I have a table of 8 filled, but if more people want to go, please let me know. We'll order another table and we'll have some fun. So for those of you that have said you were coming, it's 25 a person, 25 a person. So, so let me know. We can order another table. I have no problems doing that. For those of you that have committed, money's good. We appreciate that. Anyway, thank you, everyone.
All right. I invite you to join me in our prayer as we extinguish our chalice. The light of truth and meaning cannot be put out. We are the keepers of this flame until we meet again. May we all covenant with ourselves and each other that we will practice what we preach, love ourselves that we may love others, and that we will keep calling ourselves and each other back to love at the center of all things, again and again. Amen, and blessed be.
All right, just finished 100 postcards.
Woo-hoo.
We do have to break down.
Oh, we do have to break down, so if everybody can grab something, those of you that are